Hey, we got to do something about the camera because on Zoom, all we're looking at is Bob's crotch.
Okay, so here we go. So first of all, welcome everyone. So happy we've got people from other groups joining today, man. Put your hand up if you're not for Tagger. We've got quite a few guys here who made the trip this morning to come in for this workshop, so we really appreciate it. Guys, make sure you mingle at the end and meet a friend you don't know. So this is a special event today. We've never done this before. We've done sponsorship events before, but not as with the whole meeting, everyone on Zoom. So it's a big thing. We hope you're going to get something out of it today. So my first sponsor told me that this is a 12-step program, not an 11-step program. And that means you've got to help the other guy. So without further ado, I'm going to make a very brief open on this. Is anyone celebrating an anniversary today? 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months? Jonathan?
1 year.
1 year? Come on out. Anyone else?
9 months.
No.
9 months shit.
Come on, come get a 9-month chip, man. That's awesome.
What's your name?
Matt.
Congrats. I'm from Better Way.
Comes with a hug, man.
Yeah, pretty good. Fantastic. So I want to ask Ben to say the Serenity Prayer.
Okay. Courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Thanks, Ben. Sorry, Ben.
I didn't know how to start.
Okay, for anyone new to this program today, is this your first meeting?
First meeting ever.
Oh, awesome. Your name is?
David.
David, we're so pleased you joined. Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom? Today, every one of these men is here today to learn more about how to help the new guy. We're all new guys. We call it the walk of shame. You walk in, you know, oh my God, I'm going in a meeting with a bunch of sectors.
Notice you didn't bring your trench coat today.
Yeah, the most of them, all these guys are just the best people ever. We've just got this crazy disease. Once we get connected to our higher power, we can live a new life, and it's amazing. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to ask the maestro here to put the next slide up.
Go ahead, Kyle.
So while we're waiting for that, I just want to point out to everyone, this session is being recorded. We're planning to distribute this so other people can get the benefit of this session too. So those people who unfortunately couldn't make it. So great. So this is our workshop. Next slide, Kyle. So this is the agenda. So Bob the fisherman, there's a bit of a story there. My hobby is fishing. So that's a big thing. So open and intro, that's me. Then we're going to hand over to Austin A in the corner there, is going to talk about his experience with sponsoring guys, things that he's learned, etc. We're then going to do some very brief testimonials. I'm going to speak about a story with one of the guys who used to be a member of this, Kyle, who's doing the slides now, is going to speak to his testimony, and Jake, who's a fairly new guy, is going to speak to his experience of overcoming fear about helping a new guy. Then we're going to hand over to Darren there, who's going to talk about why this is so critical and relate that back to the book. Then we'll have question and answer at the end. That's quite important. If you've got something you don't understand, then obviously ask the question. But if you've got a question about the content, just wait to the end, as we won't get through the agenda. We've got a pretty packed agenda today. So that's basically it. So any questions about that? Good. Austin, you're on, man.
Great. Hey, guys, I'm Austin A. I'm a recovered sex addict.
Hey, Austin.
Thanks for having me. So I'm going to go and talk to you guys about my experience. Mark, Jake, and online, I'm going to be talking about you guys a little bit, so don't feel bad It'll be great. And I just tell you that. If we can go to the next slide here, I just want to walk you through kind of the agenda of what I want to cover today and walk you through. I don't know those other slides. Those weren't mine. Let's keep going here down to mine. That's okay. Why we do it. So I'm going to be talking about step 12, and I want to just caveat that this is my experience. You can have a different experience. I don't have the monopoly on how to do anything. I don't know everything. This is just my experience, and so I'm going to share that with you. So we'll go to the next one here. This just walks through some of the things that I think are important to be thoughtful of. We'll talk a little bit about just kind of center on what are the responsibilities of being a sponsor. What might you expect from a sponsor? And conversely, if you're a sponsor, be mindful, these are the things that you should probably be thinking about. It was kind of funny when I was looking at this for myself. What does the big book say? I think that's important because we are a big book group and we center on that. And then I'm going to talk about some use cases, specifically for individuals that I've worked with and try to give you some texture. I really learn and understand when I hear about, how something happened, like real. And so I want to talk in real terms and go through that. So, and then I'll talk a little about some of my best practices, what I like to do, how I like to run as a sponsor, and hopefully that gives you a good idea. I'm gonna try to do this quick, 15 minutes and blow through this. All right, so sponsor responsibilities. One, that you're sober, right? This is really key element. We want to see that you've got some level of sobriety, that you're working the steps. Hopefully you've had spiritual awakening, right? You're in that fourth dimension, starting to move into that, and that's exciting. Two, that you've worked the steps with your own sponsor, right? This is really critical, and even my own story, I'm gonna touch on this. You got to go through the steps and do the steps to teach the steps. I know that sounds pretty simplistic, but you got to do the steps first before you can teach it. And so that's really key. Three, have humility. Man, when I put this down, I was like, oh shit, that's not me. So I think it's recommended. I'm trying to be more humble. And when I work on my spiritual defects, have compassion. I think this one, for me, again, I do feel compassion. The suffering that I've gone through. And then when I see a new guy walking in, I call it the guy 1,000-yard stare. They walk in like a zombie and they're just like, fuck, what happened? What am I doing here? Excuse my language. I will swear. If anyone takes offense to that, I'm sorry. But man, it's when you walk in this room, and David, thanks for being here, brother. Takes a lot of courage. And there's probably a lot going on, man. And I get it. I've walked in your shoes. And it's not a lot of fun, but and then have good active listening skills. Again, for me, I got to work on that one, but I'm really trying hard to hear guys, hear their story, feel to empathize and relate with them. So these are some of the attributes that I think are really important when we look at being a sponsor. Next. What is expected? The sponsor's role is to assist the new man through the program. You're his guide, you're his mentor, you're his Yoda, you're his fill in the blank. You've done it, you've been through it. You're not gonna do it for him, but you're gonna walk alongside him. You're gonna trudge the happy road of fucking destiny with this brother. And he's gonna be trudging, and you're probably gonna be trudging too, and that's okay. But you've got the experience in the room. You've showed up, and not just the physical room, but also the virtual room too. I think that's really important in this kind of new world that we live in. And again, I'll talk a little bit about that. You know the challenges of sobriety because you've lived it. Relapse? Oh, jeez. Yeah, okay. Saying that stupid shit to my wife, that stupid words to my wife again. Those just can't get out of my own way. Check, that's me, right? But I've had some sobriety. Now this early and long term, you can't get long term until you have early term, right? I think you should start sponsoring them, frankly, as soon as you get through the steps. Yeah. And I don't see long term being a criteria, frankly, because you can't get long term sobriety unless you just do it. And so I also believe that you get sobriety by sponsoring. And so, great, you'll get long term sponsor. And you're giving guidance both in your own recovery and you're helping help that gentleman work the program with you. So I know that it has helped me stay sober. And selfishly, I like sponsoring to stay sober, selfishly. I also have come to love sponsoring because I love seeing a guy get up and go, and move his feet and get recovery and get better. It's really amazing. I'm so thankful to see guys get better. But when I first started doing this, I'm like, I gotta stay sober. This is what the program requires. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And I encourage you to take that attitude too. Next slide. All right, what does the big book say about sponsoring? So this is, again, speaks back to kind of the heritage of the big book. Again, Alcoholics Anonymous, Sex Addicts Anonymous is one addict working with another. And there's tons and tons of references in the big book. So the big book advocates that you do this. We follow the big book. We've seen it work with the stories in the big book. I've seen it work in person. You should do this because it works. Now, I will say here, I thought this was great, that it doesn't matter sponsoring, whether or not that guy gets sober or not. It doesn't matter if he goes on to sponsor or not. What matters is that you're carrying the message of the man that still suffers and that you're doing it. I hope that all those guys will want to pick up the message. You're just there until God shows up. And I've heard other sponsors say that. Thanks for trying the tent, because my motor runs hot and I like to drink coffee and it is getting warm in here. So again, don't be discouraged if your proteges, the guys you're working with, your sponsees don't make it. I also think too that, you know, I'm not a dog catcher. I'm not out chasing these guys down. There's other guys that need help. If other guys need help and a guy doesn't want to work the program, okay, let him go do some more research.
That's so good.
I did. It hurt. And I'm back. I got back in the ring. So I think these are all really key. Again, what sponsorship again says, and I want to ground it first there. All right, let's go on to talk a little bit about some of my experiences and some of the guys I want to talk about. So my story, I got into sobriety in 13. My life blew up. Prostitutes, escorts, hookups, coworkers, bad. I shouldn't be married. I shouldn't have a family. Shouldn't have had a job. Bad. I'll just put it that, okay? So I got into a group, not this group, and I never got through full 12 steps in 6.5 years. 6.5 years. I only sponsored one guy, Norm. And I haven't talked yet about kind of the functions of how do you sponsor, but I want to emphasize and kind of build some stories here around failure and success. And we use the Green Book. Not that the Green Book is bad. It works for some people. Didn't work for me. We didn't do a step 4. I never got to a step 4. I never ever got my inventory done. I never worked fully through. I just thought though, as trying to kind of muddle along, wasn't even trudging, I mean, it was muddling, rolling in the mud, falling in the ditch, that you know, I could maybe help a guy, and I wanted to help a guy. So this guy, Norm, I worked with, we never got through the steps. And I just tell you this as to ground and juxtapose what worked for me and what didn't work for me. And unfortunately, we never completed it. Norm went on to act out. He got a call, he got a knock on his door at 6 a.m. Guys with guns and suits showed up, and he lost his home. His wife divorced him. He lost his business. He went to federal prison, and he's got another 6.5 years to go. I love this guy. He's one of us. I love Norm. He's a brother. He's got a slightly different variation of the allergy, but he's got it. I feel guilty personally about that experience for him. I'm trying to let that go, but I tell you the story that this is really fucking serious, guys. This is a progressive disease. And, you know, I relapsed, frankly, too. I relapsed shortly thereafter. So I wake up and I'm like, I got to do something. And I go out and I go all over the Metroplex and I find on tag, and I'll tell you a little about that story with my sponsor. But as a result of working the steps, having a spiritual awakening, getting a sponsor, working the steps, and having a spiritual awakening, I've had the pleasure of now applying a different methodology, a different approach with other gentlemen. So Mark S., the back of the room, Mark had just come out of rehab. This was about 3 years ago, I think, Mark. And I was like, I'd gotten through my work, and my sponsor was like, it's time to sponsor, giddy up. And I was like, all right, gotta do this, gotta do it. It's what it takes. And Mark showed up, and I'm like, hey, man. And I was told to greet, and I was told to go introduce myself, and I was told to trade numbers, and I was told to tell my story, and I was told to get out there and get into the thick of it. And I knew how much it hurt. And Mark had just come rolling in, and he was like, man, I need a sponsor. I'm like, hey, I'm Austin. Let's go. And I think it's really interesting too, this dynamic. We met face to face. We were across the street here in the portables. We met face to face for, I don't know, 6 months or so, every week. And we went through the study guide that we have here within the group. I love that study guide. It's the same study guide that was used on me. I don't know if you guys have seen it or if you guys use it, but I like it because it's easy. I don't have to think. Keep it simple, right? I don't know who wrote it, but it works great. Step 1, step 2, step 3, boom, boom, boom. Let's do the inventory. It's a nice set of tools. Now, there are other guys that say, hey, we don't need that sort of stuff. You can use the big book as the foundation. I agree with that statement, but for me, man, the study guide was awesome. And that's what we went through. And Mark blew through this. We went as fast as we went, and I kept pushing. Let's go fast. Let's go fast. Let's keep doing as best we can, as thorough as we could. I saw spiritual miracles come out of that experience, both for Mark and for myself. I'm still seeing spiritual miracles come out of that experience. If you'd asked me that 4.5 years ago, I would have been like, what the hell are you talking about? Fourth dimension? What? You're a lunatic. You're out of your mind. And I have personally been blessed so much by my work with Mark and what he's brought to that conversation. I never expected it. I just thought, let's get in there and roll, and let me try to help him. But I've gotten back a lot more from him, frankly, than I think I've given him. I feel bad for him sometimes. I'm like, oh man, I'm your sponsor. This is why I'm a team sponsor, because I can pull in other guys and help me out. But I love Mark for what he brought to that conversation, his experience. I also think just from, interpersonal, it's interesting. Mark's older than me, not a lot. He's a good looking guy, but, I don't think it matters. Your race, your color, your age, orientation, your occupation. It matters about your heart and do you want to help?
Yeah.
And so I never saw that as, I got an older guy, I got a younger guy, I got a guy that's not in tech, who is in tech, who does this, who does, it doesn't matter. And so it's been really a liberating experience for me to meet different guys from all different walks of life. And I love that. And I get joy from those relationships. So that was Mark. Michael G. He was the second guy that came in, and again, same thing. He was out of the house. He's like, man, this is bad. And I'm like, right on, dude. 1,000-yard stare, dead man walking, let's go. And I was like, hey, Mark, out of the nest, go sponsor somebody. Come on to the next guy, And so this was also an awesome experience. Michael brought a whole different set of experiences and walking him through the steps. And I used the guide and did the same thing. He gave me great spiritual insights. What I'm trying to emphasize to you guys here is this is not just your giving. You are giving as a sponsor, but you're getting a lot. This is not a chore. This becomes a joy.
Yeah.
And I experienced that. Not only did spiritual things that I didn't expect came out of that relationship and that interaction. I got to go to my wife and I, can't believe I'm still married, went to his renewal of his vows 1 year later. We're sitting there, sex addict and his wife, with 40 other normies. How do you know him? We're in this group together. My wife's like, oh, shit, and we're like, hey, what's up? And I'm telling you, we had an amazing time. And it was amazing to see them go through that experience. Does it happen for every guy? No. Sometimes marriages don't make it. Sometimes they do. I don't know. For him, it did. So it's really cool to experience and go through that. All again, I'm trying to say is you don't know where this is gonna go. You better show up though. And even for my wife, it was powerful. Cause she's got some issues with me at this. And wow, God works in a lot of different ways. Your higher power works in a lot of different ways. So again, I just want to emphasize that. Jake V. So now I want to talk about remote. So these three guys were all in person. Jake was online. Here's a guy that is, and I call these guys out on the frontier. I don't know what it is, or out in the lost in the wilderness, out on the frontier. They're out there, man, and they're going, I need help. I'm drowning. And somehow they find us online and they get into the room through Zoom. And whatever reason I was online that night, he showed up, and you'll hear kind of what I do with my philosophy with being on Zoom. It's the same as here. Greet, say hello, engage, right? You got to be proactive in that environment. And he was like, hey man, I'm in Hong Kong. I was acting out in the Pacific Rim, these tech guys bouncing all over. I got nobody. And how do we do this? And so this is really where I think team sponsoring is a powerful concept, because I don't have to know everything, but if I know all this wisdom and I can plug into guys, I can plug into Darren, I can plug into Todd, I can plug into Bob, I can plug into Dave, I can plug into Keith, and I can tap in, tap out, bring guys in. When I don't know stuff, which is a lot, tap in, tap out. When I have a question, Darren, what do I do about this, man? You ever heard of this problem? No, man, that's a good one. Let's go talk to another dude, right? So that group sponsoring in that remote setting, we worked every week and we went through the steps, and I went through the step guide. And it was really amazing to see that journey that Jake went through. And specifically, step 4 for him was amazing to watch, and how he journaled that. He might talk a little about that, but in this remote context, in these remote discussions, that was really fascinating to participate with him and walk through and have those conversations. They were as intense and in-depth as they were in person, I think, for both of us. So whether you're hybrid or both online or remote, yes, you can do it. You should do it. Go do it. And now I have this brother that comes back, expatriated back to the States. He's moved to Texas. Yes, he's down in Austin, but he's visited Dallas multiple times. He's gotten to know other guys. We've done stuff. I can't believe this. How did I meet this guy that I love as a brother on the other side of the world through this community? That's a freaking miracle. You better show up for that. So he had this experience where he was fighting with some resentments. I said, dude, we do this burning box thing at the retreats. Why don't we write these down and you go burn them on the street? He goes, let's do it. So he goes, he was in Taiwan that time. He writes his resentments down, goes out and gets a bucket, burns them on the street. I'm on Zoom with him. Dude, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. You can have magic moments. God will show up and work in all sorts of different ways. So step up and go do this. You're gonna get a lot out of it. All right, so that's a little bit of the case studies and experiences. What I want to give you is this sense of duty as your steps to stay sober, and this is an amazing experience. Don't be afraid to go do this. Do the step work. Your life will be a lot better. You will find peace, joy, friendship, community. I've never had that with guys, so I really appreciate it. I love it. All right, let's go to the next one. So I got to keep moving here. Best practices. I encourage you to introduce yourself, raise your hand, be the last one to put it down. We have in tag, I appreciate this. Who wants to sponsor? But I really, encourage you to take the next step, and the new guy shows up, and let's go after the meeting, go talk to him a little bit, say hi, get to know him, swarm him. Overwhelm him. It's okay, so get ready for that, dude. I know this sounds really fundamental. I like basics. In the business that I'm in, I like to run the fundamentals. Like to run really good. And if I run the fundamentals really good, I get a repeatable outcome. And it's really good, right? It's the same thing here. Get a number, guys. I feel like relaxing a little bit, just candidly in the group of getting the numbers and getting them distributed, but get a number and follow up, call them. Hey, what's going on? How'd it go? That's really important. Make a guy feel welcome. You need to ask him, do you have a sponsor? Do you need a sponsor? Right? So once you got a guy that says, hey, I do want you to sponsor me. And again, as a course, we all know this, or I'll repeat it. You might not be their sponsor permanently, but it doesn't matter. Get in there, it may swap out and change, but set up a regular time. I think this is the best practice. Meet regularly once a week. Set it, commit to it, and have either a location, and I prefer being in person. I think that's more effective. Barocco, we're trying to do that more, but sometimes we got to do it by Zoom. And make it a routine. I like using the guide. It's easy. I don't have to think. I believe in go as fast and as thorough as possible as you can. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good, but don't skip and don't miss stuff on step 4 when you're doing inventory with the guy. So that's just really dig deep on that one. Make sure the guy goes, yeah, I'm an addict before you get to step 4. The other thing too is as the group continues to grow and you guys come in, and team sponsoring, feed your guy contacts. LaRocco, you probably were like, dude, stop giving me all these dudes' names and telling me to call guys. But I'm like, here's another one. Hey, call Jesse out in Connecticut. He's got some wisdom. Hey, call Darren. He's lived some shit. You might want to talk to that guy. Hey, Jim S. What about that dude, man? He's got some gray hair. He's got beautiful hair. And man, he's got some wisdom, right? You need to talk to him. So this is the team sponsoring aspect that I really believe in. Because again, I don't know a lot, but I know a lot of guys, and within a lot of guys, there's a lot of wisdom, and I want to get that to my guy. So share contacts, get them. I have this philosophy, and I say, hey, call a guy. I want you to introduce yourself. I want you to give something to this guy. I want you to then to have the guy and then ask the guy, what did you learn from that? Or if you didn't hear anything of what I told you, can you tell me something that's impacting you today when your sponsee's calling a guy? Listen, sponsee, to what that guy tells you. Then call me back and tell me what you heard. Give, get, process, reach out, teach, create the loop. I've gotten so much wisdom from my sponsees going, yeah, I called this guy. I was using the 24 hours. I told him this, and this. He was like, dude, I got some insight on that. Whoa. He tells me about that. I'm like, holy smokes, that's amazing. And build these feedback loops. That's really helped me. Team sponsor with Jake. I use Todd G a lot. I was doing some stuff, work, and I was like, Todd, I need you to fill in with Jake on these weeks. Here's where we're at. Here's what we're doing. Jake, I'm not going to be here because of this. Okay. It's okay. It's not about me. It's about God working with that guy. And more wisdom, different experience, kept him moving, right? So team sponsor, you don't have to do it alone. I like having fun. I mean, I sat in the closet and cried for 2 years, 7 months until my wife started talking to me. First time around. I'm really tired of crying. I want to cry, good cry. But so I want to give hope that when you get in 10, 11, 12, those steps, man, now we're in the money. This is where there's peace and love, acceptance, and things are good. And I want to get a guy there fast. I want to get there. I'm there and I want to stay there. I want to get to the 4th dimension. And so I like to have fun. And so where this really started out was Jim S. When I first came into the group, literally that first week, he was like, hey, Austin, by the way, we're smoking cigars at the house. You want to come on over? Yeah, that sounds awesome. Sure. I'm there, man, because I'm really screwed up and I need some help, and man, these guys seem pretty good. And that was really my first experience with tag. Then going on and working with, having breakfast, that has developed into something great. Other things have spun off of that. Working the steps, this is the foundation, this is the core, but it's allowed me to have fun with other areas, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, frankly. And so let's go fishing, let's go ride motorcycles, let's go look at airplanes, let's go do fun stuff. While I still do this, let's go hunting, let's go kill some elk. You know, all that stuff, I appreciate and have fun, because I've hurt for a long time, I'm tired of hurting. So, and then do it all. As a sponsor, you need to work the steps, you need to sponsor, you need to go to the retreats. Guys, we all need to go to the retreats every 6 months. I tell that to my sponsees, look, I wish you'd been there because it was freaking awesome. I know it was your wife's birthday. That's a good excuse. The next year, you're going. And then you're gonna do service work. You're gonna do it all, and you're gonna do it all, and you're gonna do it all, and you're gonna tell your sponsor to do it all, and you're gonna demonstrate and show them how to do it all. Because when we do it all, man, you get a lot. The more you put into this, the more you get back. And I've experienced that. Online, get online and linger. Hey, how you doing? Just talk to you guys. Hey, where are you from? What's going on? What are you doing? I don't care. You gotta be more proactive in that setting. You gotta ask the question, you're new? How long have you been here? Do you have a sponsor? Do you need a sponsor? Proactive online. These guys are out on the frontier. Make an effort. Talk to them. Bring them in. Ask them. Engage them. I can't believe that the relationship I got with Jake. Other guys that I started to get to know. Learn more about them. Help them help me. So I think that's really powerful. And ultimately, again, get yourself to the fourth dimension. So these are some of the best practices that have worked for me. They may work for you. I hope they do. If you have other great ideas, tell me. I want to be good. I want to be really good at this. So, all right, let's go to the next one. I got to speed it up here because we're going long. Oh, did we cut out?
There you go.
Oh, did we do going on Ian, my sponsor? I just want to close with my sponsor real fast. If we can go back up, above Jake and. No, let's go one more. No, it must not be in there. So my sponsor, I'll just put it in here. You know, how long does it take? I don't know. Mine took about 6 months. But it was really interesting when when I walked through the tag, my sponsor, Ian W, said, hey, do you have a sponsor? And I was like, yeah, I'm just checking it out. And he goes, you're gonna fucking die. And I was like, what? Who the hell is this guy? I've been recovered for 6 years. Yeah, I had a relapse. Fuck off is what I'm thinking in my mind. And this little yappy dude is in my face. You're gonna fucking die. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And he goes, you need a sponsor. I'm like, okay, fine. You can be my sponsor. I swear to God. And he's like, fine, I will. I'm like, cool. What's your name? That's how it went down. And I was like, and that guy was perfect for me because he called me on my bullshit. He showed me grace when I was struggling doing my intensive, an outpatient intensive that I was going through. When I was struggling and just out of my mind and yelling at the waitresses, because I used to do that. He was like, dude, you need to calm the fuck down. Your ego is out of control and your anger. You're in the brain fog, dude. And then he showed me grace and he gave me the time. He was a great example of helping me through that. It's going to vary on how long or short it takes, but those are things that he taught me, and it helped me recognize and appreciate that you got to get out there and run with it. And then he also pulled me in team sponsor when he moved me out, and another guy was coming in, and I got to work it side by side. So I really got to, experience it, shepherd, be mentored, and then even go and do. So I just want to share that with you guys. I hope that helps you. And I hope that you continue to sponsor. It's a really critical part of staying. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Right, Bob D, you had me before, but one of the guys in this program at TAG is a guy called Scott Kay, and I remember him telling me when I first came in, I first got sober, he said, you don't want to miss this. I'm thinking, what the fuck is he talking about? I don't want to be a sex addict. I don't want this, and you're telling me I don't want to miss it? Now I know what he means because of sponsoring guys. So it's hot in here. We've all been sat on our fat butts, or my fat butt, for a little while. So audience participation time. Put your hand up if you have had a sponsor. That's kind of cool. I was expecting every hand to go up apart from one. So, okay, I want you to put your hands up again. If you've sponsored one guy, put your hand up. Holy crap, that's 2/3 of the guys. So these guys, a lot of them are sponsoring. Put your hand up if you sponsored more than one guy. Man, that's amazing. That really is amazing. Thank you. So there's a lot of people out here who can help you. So I want to read something from chapter, I've got 5 minutes, so I'll be brief. I want to read something. There's a whole chapter 7 called Working with Others. And the very first paragraph says, practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from acting out as intensive work with other addicts. It works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion, 12th step. Carry this message to other addicts. You can help where no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they are very ill. And that's so freaking true. And someone said to me once in my mess, I mean, I remember 5 years ago, my wife kicking the shit out of me on our marital bed in the dark, screaming, prostitutes, 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 and just kicking me. I was like half asleep. And yeah, that's what I did to her, you know. So, and here I am 5 years later after that, and I've found a new life and recovering some of the best friends I've got. It's fantastic. So I've got a story to share. I know many people, including myself, when you get through the program, it's like, okay, it's time to pick up a sponsor. It's a 12 step. You got to do the 12 step. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready. Oh, what do I know? Shit, I've only just got through it. I don't know. So I picked up a guy who was even older than I am. And he was a super sweet guy. Worked the steps before as an alcoholic, but was struggling with sex addiction. So we started off, we hit it off straight away. He did the first 3 steps religiously. We got to step 4, which for those of you who've been in the program is pretty tough. You got to do an inventory, right? And you have to dig deep. It's basically looking in the mirror. So he started to do it. He did a couple of things and he struggled and struggled and struggled. This went on and on, week after week after week. I would see him and I'd say, well, maybe you should just try an easy one, try this, try that. And it just wasn't getting anywhere. So there's a guy who used to be in our fellowship, Roger B. Many of you know him, super, super guy. And he had this program through his bones. And he would go to all the meetings. And I met him at breakfast. It was just me and him. It was a God thing. No one else showed up. Normally there's like 10 guys at breakfast. It was me and Roger. And I said, Roger, can I ask you a question? He said, yeah, sure, go for it. I said, well, I've got this guy. He's kind of really nice and he's struggling and he's this and that. And he's got here and he got there. And I was going on like I normally do. And Roger said, well, let me stop you. What you're basically saying is he's not doing the work, right? I said, yeah, that's right. He's not doing the work. He said, well, fire his ass. Just like that. I was like, oh, he's such a nice guy. So I did. I fired his ass. And his first comment to me was, you can't do that. You can't fire me. And I said to him, I think fine, I can. And so anyway, fired him and he was like, fuck you, basically. And he went and got another sponsor. And that sponsor happened to be Todd G. Those of you who know Todd. He's like a no nonsense, get it done, man. And I just thought, that's a God thing. He's got, so one or two things are going to happen. You know, he's either going to be gone for good or he's going to get on with it. He got on with it. He got through the steps in 2 months, found sobriety. And we're like best friends now. He recently had a hospital visit. He had some serious thing. I'm talking to him every day. I'm talking to his wife. I'm not even his sponsor anymore. But that one thing, having the courage to say no. In fact, it says in the book, don't waste your time on the guy who can't get the work done. It's not about wanting to do it. It's not, was described earlier, it's kind of osmosis. I feel the same as Austin. You go to a Green Book and meeting, I've got the same similar opinions to Austin. And it's almost like, well, I'm immersing myself with all these guys who kind of got it. And it's kind of, it feels good. And I think I'm doing the right things. I'm showing up. It doesn't work with osmosis. You've got to do the work. The same with step 12. There's a step 12 for a reason. You've got to do the work for the new guy, but also for yourself, for your sobriety. That's all I've got to share, man. Thank you. I'm going to hand over. I think it's to Carl next. I'm not sure.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. So Thanks everybody for joining in. And I'm also going to quote Roger B., who was my first sponsor. When I joined the program, my first day, I was at the point of desperation, like a lot of y'all are, where I was willing to do whatever the hell anybody told me to do. If they said you got to spray paint yourself pink, go out on the bridge and with pom poms and scream SA, I was like, I'll do it. Whatever it takes, I'll do. And one of the things they said you got to do is you got to find a sponsor. And I got that list with all the stars on it. And I said, okay, again, it's a God thing. I picked this guy named Roger B. And he helped me through the program. He held my feet to the fire. Where are you on step? Bob just mentioned step 4. I can hear it in my ears right now, him saying, where are you with step 4? Where are you with step 4? Where are you with step 4? And just kept going on. So finally, and I'm going to be brief because I know I want to give time to the other guys. So I got to the part where I finished my 12 step, and I was about, I don't know, 7 months into the program. And I got done with my steps, and Roger said, okay, man, the next meeting, when they asked the question, who here is willing to sponsor, you need to put up your hand. And I said, Roger, I don't really feel comfortable with that. I think I need to be sober for at least a year before I do that. And his response was, I don't give a fuck what you're ready for, what you think you're ready for. I told you when that question's asked, your hand goes up. And so I did and started sponsoring guys. And I found the greatest gift in the world. So I do want to point out this, excuse me, this graphic that's on here, because I think it says a lot. In that, imagine for me, that upper hand was Roger B. And I was the one reaching up saying, God, I need help. I've got to have help. And then that day when Roger said, I don't give a fuck, I became the guy with the upper arm, but I also remained to be the guy with the lower arm, because my sponsees, the guys that I work with, they do just as much to help me with my recovery as anything I could ever do for them. So there's a guy that goes to the retreats, and he's got a t-shirt that quotes, it says, I can't remember what his sponsor's name is, but it says, so-and-so said. So I've now got a t-shirt that says Roger B said, because my wife gets tired of me saying something and she goes, where did you hear that? Well, Roger B told me that. And just the greatest gift of recovery. So again, I don't want to monopolize. Anyway, keep the conversation. I'm going to turn it over to Jake.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle, and thanks for all of you for letting me share today. My journey started in October of 2022. I was flying back to Tokyo from London, and I had flown a lot in my career, probably hundreds of times, just because of the work that I do. And I've never missed a flight once. And that day in October, I was acting out and I missed my flight going back to Tokyo. It was terrible. I remember being so angry, restless, irritable, discontent. I remember walking on this bridge. I had looked up Sex Addicts Anonymous before, and started just looking at it much more seriously, and found a group. I cold emailed Tag. I don't know who responded to me. I can't remember exactly who it was. It might have just been a generic email. Said, yeah, we meet on these days. Here's the link to join. And I joined, and Austin shared about that first night that I joined. He just was like, yeah, I'll be your sponsor. And we went through the steps with a pretty high level of intensity. I remember step 4, every time I was on the train in Tokyo, I would write out the steps. Late at night, I was in my apartment writing out writing out everything I could from an inventory perspective. And that was a tough step. It was very difficult. And that winter, in December, I was home for Christmas, and I went through step 5 with Austin. We did 3 different sessions that were an hour and a half long each. And I was getting over a cold, and I lost my voice every time. But but he just sat there and stuck with me. He stuck with me when I was telling about, my inventory, didn't judge me, just stuck with me and said, Jake, I get it. I get it. And I hadn't had someone, that I've talked to, like a psychologist or anyone who sat there and was like, yeah, I get it. And it was just so powerful for me. And I just saw my life really start to change a lot. And I had a relapse a few months later. And I was out in the mountains on this motorbike trip in May of 2023. And I get a call from someone, I don't know who it is. And I listened to the voicemail on May 4th, 2023. I'm going to share the first 15 seconds of it. Hopefully it'll get through my headphones. Hold on one sec.
Asked me to call you. Hey, Jake, this is Bob D from the Fellowship. Austin asked me to call you, and I'm doing so, and I'm leaving you a message, but you got to sponsor folks. You got to get some sponsees,
and he called me with a sense of urgency, saying, Jake, you've got to start sponsoring someone. And I remember thinking about that, thinking, man, I don't know if I'm ready to sponsor. Can I do it? And I started my sponsoring journey, and I was sponsoring two guys. And one of the guys I was sponsoring, his life blew up when he started sharing about what was going on in his life at the time with his wife. And at one point, I got a text from his wife in the morning saying, hey, your sponsee, without a name here, your sponsee, or her husband, is in the hospital. He threatened to commit suicide last night, and he's got 3 daughters. And police came and picked him up and brought him to the hospital where he had to stay for a number of days. And his wife was, I called her. She's crying on the phone. It was just unbelievable. And I sat there. I'm like, I don't know how to handle this. I'm not ready for this. I'm in sales. Like I don't know what to do. And I remember calling guys, calling Austin, calling Mark, calling Ted, calling Bob, calling a bunch of guys, and they helped me. They just talked me through it. And my sponsee would call me a couple times a day from the hospital. I get a phone call from an unknown number. It was my sponsee. We just sit there and talk. And fast forward to two or three nights ago, I'm in Atlanta. I've never met my sponsee before in person. And I got dinner with him in Atlanta. And he gives me this card, and his card inside, it's a thank you note from him, from his wife, from his kids. And I'm reading it, just tearing up as I'm sitting across from him. I'm thinking, man, the guys shared this earlier, life takes on a new meaning. And, page 89, to watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. And, the faith, not fear part is, for me, starting to sponsor someone. I didn't know the words to say or what to do. But you don't get those experiences sitting on the bench. You got to get in the ring. You got to go out and sponsor, just like Bob D said when he called me and left me a voicemail, said, you got to sponsor because it'll change your life. And it completely changed my life. And it's been just an incredible part of my journey is actually being in the ring with other guys. So thanks for letting me share. And if you're not sponsoring, I just highly encourage you to do it.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, Jake.
Oh, the hour's up.
Yeah.
I just closed the door so no one leaves.
So guys, we knew it's a challenging agenda. Hopefully you can exactly leave, just leave, but Darren's going to speak. I know he's got some magic stuff that he's going to go through. So we've asked him to stay. You want a donut, coffee, juice, help yourself. Thanks, Dan.
If you do have to leave, just get up quietly, go out the door. This is recorded. Just gonna talk for a few minutes because I want this to be first one of the questions that y'all have. If you could go to the next slide, Kyle. The most interesting sponsor in SA, you remember this guy? He was the most interesting guy in another world. Says, when I work with sponsees, I'm really hard on them. That's why they are little assholes. I love it. Next slide. Okay, here's a bunch of numbers. This is your Powerball picks. All right, so make sure you jot them down. Page 60, it says what step 12 says. I'll get to these numbers in a minute. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to sex addicts and to practice these principles in all our lives. We're gonna dissect that a little bit. I came to the fellowship in November of 10, found a sponsor in February of 11. Took me a few months to find a sponsor. My first sponsee asked me to sponsor him in August of 11. So kind of between February and August is what it took me to work those steps pretty quickly. About 2 months, I think, with my sponsor. Started raising my hand and that I'm like, no one's asking me, Bonds, what's going on? He's like, well, are you going up to him after the meeting? Are you calling him? Are you talking to him? Because step 12 says we carry the message to them. I don't just sit in the back of the room and hope they come to me. I had the mentality that, well, he's sick. If he wants my help, he's going to come and ask me for help. That's not my experience. 14 through 82. All those numbers represent men that have called me sponsor at some point in the past. I've attempted the steps with 82 guys over the course of 13 years. I say that not just see. One of the common things I get is, Darren, I'm trying to help. No one's getting sober. No one's doing this stuff. I get it. That's not an indicator of success. It's not why we do this. I do 1 through 11 to do 12. And the book says I tried to carry the message. So these are 82 times that I've tried to carry the message. You know, the book says intensive work with other sex addicts. For me, this is what it looks like. It means trying to find a guy to help. It means throwing seeds out there into the world to see who wants to pick them up. And my responsibility is to try to help them go through those steps. I do 1 through 11 to 12. It keeps me sober. I don't know what those others, so there's 21 numbers on there. 16 of the guys currently call me sponsor. The other 4 guys have found other sponsors and that's great. There's a lot more numbers that aren't on there. There's like 60. What are they doing? Are they sober? Are they happy about it? Can they find some other program? I don't know. But as a result of my effort trying to be helpful to those guys, guess what? Darren got to stay sober another day. Was the time wasted? Absolutely not. And as the world thinks about it, oh, that's not very success. That's like 20% success, Darren. Well, it's 100% success for me, guys. Every one of them has a different personality, a different experience. They all have names. It's a privilege and an honor to sit down with people across the kitchen table and watch lives change as a result of me sharing my past, my dark past, my experience with another guy. I've seen men divorced get remarried. I've seen single men date, get married. I've seen men who couldn't talk to their kids start talking to their kids. Every time I sit down at my kitchen table and look another man in the eye and share my story, it redeems that story, right? The guilt, the shame, the remorse, gone. The sense of unforgiveness goes away. When I sit down and hear when I hear 82 fifth steps, you can't not change. You can't not see the world different. We're all the same, guys. We all come in thinking we're so uniquely flawed and, you know, I'm a hopeless case, Darren. I haven't heard anything new since 2012 in a fifth step. I'm waiting, right? We all have the same stuff. We all have the same fears, resentments. We all feel the same guilt, shame, and remorse. Whether you acted out one time in a funny way or 10,000 times in a funny way, each of those men think through. And we're not. Next slide. So I wanted to point out 2 things that makes sponsorship important. 1, it keeps me sober. 2, it changes the fellowship. It keeps the fellowship healthy. What's the most interesting guy in the room say? When I get a good idea, call your sponsor. When you get a great idea, go see your sponsor. I love that. Means my brain can't be trusted to tell me the truth. And maybe if I check that in with another man who's been around a little while, he can help me see the truth of things. Next slide. All right, so sponsorship keeps me sober, trying to carry this message, but it also helps the meeting stay healthy and if the meeting's healthy, the fellowship is gonna start to become more healthy. Here's 20 things that I love about TAG. I'm not gonna read all that stuff. We all have sponsors. We're all trying to work with guys. We're all using the same book. We meet regularly to study the book. We have frequent group conscious meetings. We study the traditions. We have fellowship outside of the meetings. We come early, we stay late. We read a concept during the meeting. We, what else do? We donate money to the various organizations. We participate in service outside of our group. We attend intergroup meetings. We attend area assemblies. We participate in other fellowship activities. We have step speaker meetings. We do these types of things. I love the taking action group. You know, I carry this coin around to remind me of the power of this group, the power of the fellowship. And the thing behind all those things, those 20 things, is a sponsor. If there's no sponsors in the group, none of this stuff happens. None of us stay sober. None of us get a new sense of purpose. None of us experience that new sense of freedom. We miss the whole, it's like going to the dance and not dancing, right? If you don't love your home group, get a new home group. But, again, behind every one of these things is a sponsor who understands what our message is and understands what it's like to participate in all three sides of the recovery triangle. Next slide. I'm just going through this fast here. Sponsor you, I will. Who has a Yoda voice? Anybody I do not? Sponsor you, I will. Work the steps you must. Next slide. All right, Men Wanted. I love this Men Wanted sign. I know it's accurate because I found it on the internet. But Ernest Shackleton, August 1914, Men Wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return, doubtful. I love it. Honor and recognition in case of success.
Who's Ernest Shackleton?
Anyone sign up for that? So this was a 1914 expedition to the Antarctic. 10 months on this boat. The boat gets stuck in ice for 5 months. Okay. Shackleton and 5 of his men get in this little whaling boat. Well, all of them get to this little island called Elephant Island. And they're stuck there. Shackleton and 5 of his other brothers go back to South Georgia Island where they get some rescuers and they come back and rescue the rest of the crew. None of them died. Unbelievable. I'm not gonna sign up for that, I don't think, but this is what I want you to sign up for. Next slide. Men Wanted for life-saving journey. To work intensively with other sex addicts to see lives restored. We'll lose many hours of free time. We'll never be bored. We'll laugh and cry. Front row seat to the greatest show on earth. We'll be part of life at last. Experience a new purpose and a new power in your life. Phone will ring at all hours. Questions you won't know how to answer. We'll develop empathy for others. We'll stop thinking of yourself. Good chance of staying sober. Who wants to sign up for that journey? Everyone should be raising their hand, right? I sponsor to stay spiritually connected, and to see lives change. Again, it's an experience you do not want to miss. Most people who come here will leave. Okay, 20% might stay, and that's unbelievable. It's so cool to do life with those brothers. All those 20 guys have 3 things in common. They've worked the steps, they're working with others, and they're being of service. That's the 3-sided triangle, recovery, unity, service. If you want that, do what we did, do what the book did. Book says to do. Next slide. There's that quote from page 89. Keep going, Kyle. I think it's time for Q&A. If the guys on the panel want to come up and answer questions, that's what we got. Austin, Bob. So what are your questions, guys? I know it's
I have a question.
Chris.
Where do we go to get the, what you read, all the steps?
Yeah,
The guides.
I don't know.
Yeah, the guide's on the tag Google Drive. If your sponsor doesn't have it, you know, ask him why he doesn't have it, but it's on the Google Drive. It can be shared with you.
Yeah, no, there's a Google Drive. I don't think there's a password.
Has to be shared with you.
Has to be shared.
Yeah, again, that's the best thing you do. That guide was created because one man didn't know how to work the steps and he was afraid he was gonna do it wrong, so he got back into the book, made some notes. And it just was a guide to help that man carry another man through the steps.
Again, it doesn't mean you have to use it. I mean, I'm with Austin. I like it simple. But many of the guys just referred to the book on that section that,
The book says.
we'll get the link out actually, because it is open. There's no password. So,
Jorge,
So I was just curious, when I went through, when Roger B was my sponsor, he shared the tech homework. Do other groups use the same, or what other groups? I'm just curious.
no, it's not a group thing, it's a sponsor thing. You know, we're unified behind kind of this book in this meeting. We're not unified behind a guide. Of all those guys I've tried to sponsor, not one of them's been the same, right? But
So as ISO, for example, doesn't have like one sort of rules or guidelines on.
I say it doesn't have an opinion on how you sponsor. That's why we use this book, because it has, in our opinion, the most clear-cut directions how to work the steps.
Thank you.
Hey, question over here.
It was just about the study guide. I'm from a Better Way, and Flower Mountain, Grapevine or whatever. Can we get a copy of that study guide?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, get with.
any
one of those
resource
after.
materials? help.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did that, by the way.
I just sent it to one of my sponsees. Give me your phone number real quick. I'll text you right now.
Afterwards, yeah.
Anybody who wants it, just let me know.
thanks, John.
Thank you.
Darren 2.0 here.
What's up? 2.0?
Hey, great meeting, man. Very informative. Is it possible, I have the study guide, but I was just thinking through, is it possible to put it in the chat, I'm sorry, to put it in the chat?
Yes. You can add your group. Most of those, it's not one continuous guide, so every step kind of has some pages to it.
I'll put the whole thing in the group name.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. And again, that's
Yeah,
not our, we don't condone it. It's just a reference. It's a tool.
Yeah.
We're not promoting that in any way.
That's why when further questions, particularly for David here, we normally do step work from the book. We sort of work through different sections. This is kind of unique on sponsorship, so.
Yeah. We can get you a book. We got a book to give you. Here, stick around.
That is a common recovery sex addict.
Because oftentimes I get guys, I can't find anyone to help. The easiest thing to do is go talk to them after the meeting, get their number, be the first guy that calls them. I think it was Ron, you know, he and I just started working together. He's on step 9 now. I'm like, why did you ask me? He's like, well, you came and talked to me.
Yeah.
He didn't know me. I didn't know him. It's like, sweet. Right. So be that guy. It ain't hard.
Yeah, that's right.
Ali, that's fine.
I hope that has something.
Is there a question on Zoom?
It's kind of a question suggestion at the same time. I'm asking the other guys that presented today, Austin, Bob, Jake, and Darren. I feel comfortable with uploading these slides to the Google Drive. If anybody wants to take a look at them later, just ask you guys what y'all think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's all good.
One other quick thing, guys, we're planning a breakfast and a different breakfast today in Rudy's barbecue place, which is literally like 10 minutes drive up the road. So when we've all finished here, we'd encourage you, especially if guys not part of TAG, we'd love to see you there. We're gonna go and have breakfast afterwards. Thanks.
One of the last things I'll say, and I know it's getting late. How do I learn to be a sponsor? How do I learn to be a better sponsor? Well, you can read about it, right? Chapter 7 has some great ideas. You can certainly talk to others. We can certainly do some of this, and I've learned a lot from listening to speakers. But the way I kind of learned to be a sponsor is by sponsoring. Yes, just diving in, saying yes to the man who comes up to you. Ben.
If a guy comes to you asking you to be a sponsor, but he's already worked the 12 steps, but something happened with his sponsor, he just needs to do sponsor, do you work the steps again with him, or you're just, what do you do?
My experience is yes, short answer, yes. Cause I need to know that guy. I need to get to know him. It might be a little bit quicker, could be slightly different, depending on the scenario. Is he coming to me sober? Or is he coming to me because now he's not sober and he's looking for a new experience? Kind of two different things. But the short answer, every guy who comes to me for help kind of gets the same treatment, because I want him to know what my expectation would be with him when he starts working with another man. And I don't know how he worked the steps with whoever else he came from. Right. So I'm trying to teach a man how to be as helpful as he can based on what's worked for me and what the book says.
Thank you. Your opinions on, how many sponsors you feel like it's reasonable or, responsible to have at one point?
I'll answer that from my own personal experience there. When I first explained earlier about the older gentleman I picked up, you know, and he couldn't get through the steps, and he did with someone else. I find when I'm in a good place spiritual, I'm say more, it's the attraction makes it easier with other people. I find if I'm in a good place, all of a sudden I got 5 sponsors. I got to a stage about a year ago now, where I had, I think it was 6 sponsors, and I had one of those oh crap moments. What was I doing with this guy and this guy? So for me personally, my limit is kind of 4, but it depends where they are in stages. You know, so if there's a lot of people working the steps fresh from the start, and it's a lot of intensive work, I only want one of those guys at a time. If they've got through the steps, it's like maintenance. Yeah, I'm kind of comfortable with a handful of those. So that's just my personal view.
Yeah. I sponsor one guy at a time. Cause I don't have time to sponsor 2. It takes intensive work, right? And so until I get a guy up through step 9, which is about 9 weeks. I won't say yes to you if you come ask me for help. I say, well, maybe not now. Have you called Bob? Have you called Sam? Have you called Scott? Have you called, right? So we're the hand, we lead them to somewhere else who they can get some help right now. Again, I don't sponsor 82 guys at once, right? I don't sponsor the 16 guys that still call me sponsor. I don't hear from a lot of them on a regular basis. You don't need to call me every day. And I think that's one of the things that keeps people out of sponsorship. Because they think they have to be there all the time for everybody, and they're calling me, you have to call me every day for the rest of your life, and you have to check in every decision and idea you get. No, I'm here to receive 10 steps, after we're through the work and we study the traditions, I'm here to receive 10 steps from you, encourage you along your amends, and encourage you to work with others. Because when you start working with others, that's the fun stuff, right? Now we get to talk about the other guy instead of you all the time.
Yeah.
And that's how I could sponsor a bunch of guys. We need more. In Sex Addicts Anonymous, there's a desert of sponsorship. Not in this room, which is a blessing. At the same time, sometimes it's hard to find a guy to sponsor because there's so many of us. We need more new guys. Okay, what are we doing to go find them new guys or helping them find us?
Yeah.
Great question. You guys hungry? Yeah. Hot.
Actually, before we close, can we do the Lord's Prayer? And then we'll get to it. Jorge, do you want to do that?
Sure. I'll stand up for you. Yeah.
You to me, I'm not.